Hey there, and welcome to day 5 of Let's Write a Novel Together. We are following Lisa Cron's Story Genius. She is getting us up and going with our story. And we've been looking at a number of things around the premise of the story, what the story might be about, the what if of the story. But now we're moving into the second part of this book. So this book is divided into a few different sections. An introductory section, and then creating part 2 is creating the inside story. So we're looking at the sort of preparatory elements of writing the story, and we've looked at the what if section, you know, trying to get together this idea of what the plot might be, what might happen. But now we're looking at the who is going to be in our story, and working that out is really important. And I think Lisa does a great job of sort of saying why it's important to give this thought. Yes, we're going to get to know, as pantsers, we are going to get to know our characters as we write. But she makes a good point that starting that process early on, starting that process before you begin the actual writing of the manuscript is really beneficial and helpful, because, as she says, your story is not happening to anybody. Okay, it's not happening to just anybody, any old Tom, Dick and Harry. It's happening to a particular person, to a very specific person who is created in your head and that you're going to spend the next months with. And so she's saying it's important to understand who that person is, because you need to know how the storyline is going to impact them. Because remember, good story, at the heart of good story is character. So we need to know these ideas that we've had, this what if, this kind of beginning, middle and end that we've been playing with and toying with and mulling around in our heads. These are what's going to impact somebody. And it's the way that these events impact that person that really is at the heart of the story. So it's the response that this character has to the plot line, to the events in the plot, that really make a story succeed or fail. So she's pointing out it's important to know this, have a good idea of who this specific person is, this particular person is, before you start. And I really like this. I think this is a great way of thinking about it. And it might feel a bit tricky at first because you don't really know a lot about the person, and that's okay. You don't need to know a lot about them, but you do need to start getting to know them. And as she says, remembering that your story is starting halfway through someone's life, 3/4 the way through someone's life, perhaps at the end of someone's life. And that's where the term in medias res comes from. And maybe you've heard of that and seen that around on the internet. But it's starting in the middle. So, we are engaging right now over this video screen at some stage in our lives. Things have happened before that have led us both up to this point where we are having this exchange, and then our lives will carry on and hopefully be changed in some way because of it. So that's the kind of thing that we're thinking about. And so we want to know who the story is. Who is the star of your story? And so Lisa Cron is asking us to write a thumbnail sketch of who your protagonist is before the novel starts. So it's not about what they look like. It's not about those kind of superficial surface things. She's saying keep it short and to the point. The point being, who is this person on the inside? What do they believe? What do they want? Where are they in their life specifically? Your goal is to infuse what your protagonist has done with the internal reason of why they did it. Never lose sight of this simple fact. It's not just about what your protagonist did, but why. I'm not obviously going to read out the whole of this section of the book, but needless to say, I encourage you to go and buy it if you haven't already, or get it from the library, and have a read through this chapter, The Who. What's it called? The Who. Whose life will you utterly upend? So it's really good. So I've tried to do my thumbnail sketch here. So I know that Ashley, my protagonist, is having sleepless nights, and they're getting to her. She's more and more wired. She's running on adrenaline and caffeine. She's got the pressure to have a baby as well. That's coming from all sides, from her family and from her husband's family. For a long time, she's ignored the impact the attack had on her. And in her younger days, she's drowned that out with partying, alcohol, climbing the corporate ladder. But now life has calmed down and her husband wants to start a family. I have maybe drifted a bit far, but here we go. Ashley cannot bear to have a family just yet because she's terrified that what happened to her might happen to her own child, particularly as her perpetrator was never caught. She lives in a small town, and so the memory of that night and the suspicion she holds for everyone she meets is still very present in her day-to-day life. And on the inside, Ashley can't help but wonder if she deserved what happened to her. No matter how many times she plays that night in her mind, she blames herself and thinks, if only she hadn't drunk so much, if only she hadn't worn a short skirt, if only she hadn't put herself in a vulnerable position, none of this would have happened. But living in a small place, she felt safe. She felt she knew everybody and that none of the boys she knows at school would do something like that. Would they? Having always secretly blamed herself for what happened to her, she's scared that if she asks for too much in life, she'll have to pay a price. And that includes having a family. She doesn't think she deserves it because she couldn't look after herself. So how can she look after her baby? She and her husband had a dog once, but it slipped its leash and was run over, proving how incapable she is of looking after another living being. So this is Ashley. This is the star of my show. She's racked with all kinds of guilt and feelings of unworthiness, and feelings of shame and self-recrimination. But that feeling of safety, you know, that she'd lived in the small place, she knew everybody, that is what gave her that feeling of safety, that she could be who she wanted to be in this town. But that backfired and it didn't protect her in the way that she thought it would. So that's the star of my show for now. It's a start. Might it always stay that way? No, it might not. It might change as we go ahead. But we've got to have something to start with, haven't we? We've got to have a starting point of who this person is. And as I write this novel, as I write this first draft, I'm going to get to know Ashley more and more. I might find out that a lot of what I've written here turns out not to be the case, and I need to alter and change that. Some of it might stay the same as well, but that's okay. I can't let not having all that worked out in my head stop me, because if I don't start it, if I don't go with the flow, trust the process, I'm going to get stuck and I'm going to over worry about it, and that is going to hinder me and stop me making progress, and stop me getting to know Ashley, stop me getting to understand her story and what's going to happen in her life, stop me listening to her as she tries to tell me. So all interesting stuff. I feel excited about it. It's still at that lovely beginning stages where everything is possible, and all feels very exciting. So let me know, put in the comments below who is the star of your show, what's going on internally for them before the story starts, because then things are going to change for them, obviously, but we need to know who they are before the opening pages, where they are in their life internally before the plot line then changes things and they respond to that plot line. Hope that makes sense. All right. Yes, that's me for now. I shall see you next time. All right. Take care.